everyone, and welcome to another wonderful episode of Paranormal Minds. I'm your host, Shannon Ray, and tonight I have a super duper special guest, Bill Bean. And before I bring him in, I do want to tell everyone a little bit about Bill. Bill Bean is the star of the Discovery Channel episode House of the Dead and author of Dark Force Delivered, 10 Steps to Victory. He is a speaker, media personality, minister, and people builder. Bill Bean is the most famously haunted man in America and the star of one of the highest rated episodes on the Discovery Channel series, A Haunting. The episode is based off of his renowned book called Dark Force. The book chronicles supernatural events that led to the destruction of the Bean family. Both Bill and his story are internationally known, and his strong faith has inspired many people worldwide. He's given nearly 800 interviews, maybe I made 101, and is in demand for lectures, interviews, and appearances. Bill is a tremendously gifted speaker who never fails to make a connection with his audience. And with that being said, I would like to welcome in Mr. Bill Bean. Hi, Bill. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me, Shannon. It's an honor and a pleasure to be on with you.
Thank you. I am so super excited to have you on. I must admit, I'm pretty tired tonight. My 7-year-old started back school this week, and I can't decide who's more tired, me or him. But without, any further ado, I want to break into questions about Dark Force, which is your book. Can you please explain the setting and the situation around which Dark Force is based upon?
Sure. I've written 3 books, and the first one is called Dark Force, and it's based on the supernatural paranormal experiences and demonic attacks that my family and I had suffered and sustained for a very lengthy period of time, and it greatly contributed to the destruction of my family. I say in Dark Force that it all began in 1970 when my family and I moved into a 3-bedroom ranch-style home, again located in Glenburnie, Maryland, in a community called Herondale. My mom was the first to have an experience, and it had taken place in the living room while she was unpacking boxes and organizing. My dad had taken us, I have an older sister and younger brother, with him for the day to his parents' house to allow my mom to unpack and organize in what she felt would be peace. And she ended up feeling a presence. And she thought, come on, there was my dad sneaking back into the house to play a joke on her. And she spun around fully anticipating seeing him, and they were shocked nothing was there. So she was unnerved by it, eventually able to collect herself and go back to doing what she was doing, and it wasn't long after that that one of the bedroom doors slammed shut by itself, and that was enough to make her go outside and wait until we returned. So that's where it began, with these feelings of presence, and then with the door slamming and then other noises, and gradually escalated into violent physical attacks on us from these demonic entities that greatly contributed to the destruction of my family. I have very little family left now.
Wow, and that's really impactful, I guess. So my next question to you is, before the Bean family moved into this home in 1970, had you guys ever had any other kind of experience with the paranormal?
Well, now I was 4 years old when we moved into that house, and I certainly not at the time, I wasn't aware of anything. However, after writing Dark Force, a family member did make me aware of things that were taking place long before moving into that house. And according to this family member, someone many, many years ago had done something to actually conjure these demonic forces. And so if that's true, which I certainly believe it is, then the original Dark Force that was conjured up actually led us to that house where evil was already present and manifest, and that's why it was so severe, because the area itself is drenched in evil, and I still get messages to this very day from people in the area telling me about their experiences, what's taking place in their home. So again, I have no doubt that we were caught in the middle of this 2-pronged attack from evil, which affected us in such an adverse and horrific way. And then my mom had some old family photographs, and we'll get into this later in the interview about how her life ended tragically, but my sister had gotten those photos after my mom had passed, and I believe it was in 2005, Christmas time, that that she had given me some of those photos, and I brought them home and I studied the photos. Now, you know, based on the amount of experience I've had, not only in that house, but really most of my life with the supernatural and paranormal, when I'm looking at a photograph, automatically I'm looking for anomalous phenomena in the photo as well. And sure enough, in several of those old family photos, I found just that. And for those who would like to see these photos, please visit BillBean.net and click on the gallery section and you'll see them. But one photo in particular was taken in 1968, Christmas time 1968. My sister and I are seated behind a toy piano, and she was to my left. I was 2, she was 11, and she was to my left. To her far left was this gigantic hooded figure, had a black hood, and it looked to be about 7 feet tall, and you know, very large. And so that is a clear, and you can clearly see this entity in the photo. So, you know, again, we see that there was something taking place before moving into the house. And then the next year, 1969, there was a photograph taken of me at the age of 3. It looked to be somewhere around, you know, spring, Easter time, something like that. And it should have been a Polaroid photo of a little boy. And in the photograph, there are many other types of non-human looking beings and several humanoid-looking beings standing behind me in single file. And to my left appears what we describe as the little gray alien type of thing, which looks to be about 3 feet tall. And there are many faces and different types of non-human looking beings in this photograph. So again, this clearly shows that something supernatural, paranormal, was taking place before moving into the house.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, what intrigues me the most about that, I guess, as a paranormal investigator, is, you know, they were in Polaroid pictures, and a lot of times the old style photography is a lot easier to capture anomalies of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So my before I get into my next question, even though my camera is getting blurry, there we go, all fixed. Before I get into my next question, I do want to say Bill's website, which he mentioned just a moment ago, is below me. There we go. At the moment, it's www.billbean.net, and his email is billbeanoffice@mail.com. Is that a good email for you, Bill?
That is it. Perfect.
Okay, I thought so. I probably should have asked that before we went live.
No, it's perfect. Thank you.
But it will be up on your screen all through the night. Be sure to write it down. Check it out, more of it. If there's any specific question that you want to ask Bill that you don't think I'm covering, just shoot it into the chat box and I'll be more than happy to ask him. Next question, Bill. When things were started to occur within the home in 1970 when y'all moved in, were they initially attacks or did it progress to be violent?
Right, it was very subtle. And again, it started out as the feeling of presence and, you know, that door shutting and noises. And so it was a subtle thing. There were times that my mom would make the beds in the morning, and she would go back and the beds would be torn apart. There were times that the water faucets would turn on by themselves in the bathroom and kitchen with such force that it would absolutely flood and saturate the areas, you know, around the sinks. And TVs would turn on and sometimes turn off. And back then you didn't have remote control. The TVs had a very heavy channel selector, so you would have to put some effort into turning that channel dial. And I recall, you know, times where the TV would turn on and that dial would just effortlessly flip around and around. So, you know, many things like that. And then there were times that foul odors would just manifest out of nowhere. Just awful, you know, sulfur type of odors and other odors. And so as this progressed, it was certainly gaining in strength and intensity. And it's very sad because my parents were good people. My dad's very, very hard worker. He was a master carpenter, contractor, and was blessed with every skill and attribute necessary to be highly successful in life. And his story in itself is just so sad and tragic. And a very good man, William Bean Sr., Bill Bean, and my mom, Patricia Bean, was very good as well. Homemaker, a very good person. They believed in God, but we didn't have any religious structure. We'd never been baptized, and we'd never once attended church as children. And but they did believe in God. And I think that my dad, it wasn't long after moving in, my dad was a man's man. He was a very rugged individual, good man, kind-hearted man, very charismatic, but also tough as nails, and he was used to being in control of every situation. And he suddenly found himself, as this began to progress, not being in control of the situation. And this really led to his oppression. And each and every one of us came under demonic oppression at various times while living there.
Mm-hmm. Now, when the activity, I know you said that it was very gradual, but when it did become violent, was there anything that you believe was a trigger to it being violent, or do you believe it was just that this demonic entity finally reached its peak of strength to be able to do it?
Well, that's a good question, but I could tell you this, that my sister was the first to have a physical encounter, which took place late 1970, and it was in the middle of the night, and something actually had grabbed her leg, and that was the first, physical encounter. And then the next year, in '71, I was 5 years old, and like my sister, in my bed asleep, middle of the night. And the way this house is laid out, it's sat at the bottom of a downhill cul-de-sac with a very long and deep ravine behind it. And you would, the house just had a very ominous look and feel about it from the very beginning. It was semi-dilapidated. My dad, being a master carpenter, contractor, saw this as a restoration project, and we did quite a bit, in restoring the house, making it look good. But my first recollections at the age of 4, my sister said she felt the same way. At the age of 13, we were frightened. It was just not a good feeling. You would walk in through the front door, and the inside was equally ominous and foreboding. The walls had dark brown paneling and almost black in color, so it was very, very dark in the house. Just a very heavy vibe, the whole way through. And you'd walk into the living room, and you'd make a right down a long hallway, which had a tile floor, hard tile. And we'd often hear footsteps coming down that hallway, and it would reverberate off of, the paneling in that hallway, so it was very, very loud. And my brother and I shared the first room on the right. My parents' room was the second room on the right, and my sister's room was across the hallway. And we call it the back bedroom, and that room, I believe, was the portal, and that is also the room where the door would open and slam for many repetitions at a time. And that room was very, very cold. Even on the warmest of summer days, that room remained cold. And so, again, and sorry for taking a long way around there, but I just wanted to paint a picture for the listeners. And so I'm asleep in my bed in the middle of the night, 1971, and again, my sister had a previous experience in 1970, late 1970, so this wasn't long after her experience. And something woke me from my sleep, and now my brother's bed was closest to the window, and my bed was closest to the door to the hallway. And I didn't see anyone there, but I knew someone was there, and I was getting scared. I got frightened, and I just started to get out of bed to go and get my parents. Mm-hmm. And this force grabbed me by my shoulders, slammed me onto the bed, threw me down. And, I've given well over 1,000 interviews now, and I've told this story so many times, but each and every time, this is certainly one of the more unnerving parts, because I cannot, in words, describe the level of sheer terror and fear I was feeling at that time. I felt like I was going to die. I felt like my heart was jumping out of my body. I just absolutely was panicked, with a capital P, that's for sure. I wouldn't wish that kind of trauma on anyone, let alone a 5-year-old child. And many horrible things took place during that, and it seemed like it lasted for hours, but I'm sure it only lasted for several minutes. And it culminated with the manifestation of an apparition at the foot of my bed. Now, I felt totally paralyzed. The only thing that worked or moved were my eyes. And this manifestation appeared at the foot of my bed. And I have to believe that it was a divine manifestation. It was a lady. And with her appearance, all these horrible things suddenly stopped. And I felt so much love from this being and comfort. And she had on a glowing gown, which I would say, would be either white or very, very pale blue. It was glowing. And the most amazing thing about this is the manifestation apparition looked exactly like my mother. And with the appearance of this, everything had stopped, and then I just felt love and comfort from this, and protection, from this being. And then she just turned and floated up through the ceiling. And this experience happened to me many, many times over the years. And this entity also came to the aid of my mom on several occasions as well when she was being attacked. So, can you imagine, something coming to your aid that looks exactly like you?
Yeah, absolutely. When the attacks first started, Bill, did your family think that it was demonic, or when did your family kind of become aware that they were dealing with something demonic?
Well, my dad didn't want to talk about it at all, and my mom tried to keep it lighthearted in the beginning, saying, that it was a friendly ghost and all this kind of stuff, and they tried to downplay everything. But, after the physicality, after me being physically attacked like that, and then waking up the next day, feeling like I had the flu, I had a fever, my body ached everywhere, and this happened every time after one of those attacks. I would have that same kind of feeling, like, my body was just aching and fevers and just awful, awful stuff. I missed a lot of school as a child because I was sick quite a bit. And my mom also was very ill the entire time we lived in the house. She had developed high blood pressure, which led to a series of strokes, which ultimately led to kidney failure. She was very ill. And, my dad, again, who was a very strong and good and hardworking and decent man, began to have a personality change. And my parents were social drinkers. They enjoyed, having family gatherings and, having beers, and they drank National Bohemian back then, and smoked Lucky Strike cigarettes. And, it's amazing. And so they, in the beginning they would have those gatherings, but it wasn't prolonged. And his personality and character began to dramatically change for the worse. And I think that, looking back on it now, I just think that he found himself in this situation that he couldn't control, and he didn't know how to deal with it. Back then, you couldn't go to anybody. I mean, there wasn't anybody to go to, really. I mean, you could try and go to a pastor or a minister or something, but in most cases, they would think the person was crazy, so they didn't get any help from anybody. And I think that, again, with them being social drinkers, this started to amplify his drinking, and he began spending a lot of time in the bars and was coming home very late, and needless to say, this was causing problems between my parents. And my dad had his own business. He was a contractor, and so the work began to suffer, and he started spending the days in the bars as well, and would always come home in these, drunken stupors. And one night, I guess the argument went a little too far or whatever, and he struck my mother. And then, unfortunately, from 1973 to 1975, he began to viciously abuse her. And she suffered greatly with these beatings on a regular basis, and nearly killed her on several occasions. And I can recall being 8 years old, having to run and, to a neighbor's and get the police call and like that. It's just, these are awful memories. But, during that period of time, I very much hated my father. And he left us in 1975. And thank God he left, because I think that had he stayed, he probably would have killed my mom. And I have no doubt, based on what I saw, that these demonic forces were able to enter him and fuel his rage while under the influence of alcohol. There is no doubt about that at all. So I had developed a burning hatred for my dad during that period of time, I'm sorry to say. Mm-hmm. And that lasted for many, many years. And he left us at 75. He had gone to Florida and left us in such a horrible way that we had to go on welfare. You know, my mom couldn't work. And we ended up losing the house. The house was auctioned off in the front yard. And the man that bought the house was aware of my mother's circumstances and allowed us to stay there on a pay-as-you-can, when-you-can basis. And the most frequently asked question is, why did you stay? Well, there are several reasons why. The first would be that my mom was very proud and very private, very ashamed about what was taking place. My grandmother wanted us to come stay with her, but she and my step-grandfather shared a one-bedroom apartment, and my mother was not going to be a burden to them. And my aunt wanted us to come stay with her, but she had 8 children and a husband, and again, my mom was not going to be a burden to them. And as time went on, each and every one of us came under demonic oppression, and we all did things that were, way out of character. So all these things factored in to why we stayed, and eventually my mother would have a new man that would come into her life, and I believe it was like the end of 1978. And this man was very much like my dad, very hard-nosed man's man, former boxer, tough individual, not afraid of anyone or anything. However, was physically attacked many times in the house, was part of my A Haunting show, the episode, and, did state in front of the cameras that these things did happen, and he was a victim in there and was absolutely terrified to be there, and if not for his love for my mother, he would have been long gone after the first time. So I'm happy to tell you that I was able to forgive my dad in the, I would say, early to mid-'80s, and this was after the tragic passing of my mom. And so I was very, very thankful to be able to get that hatred off of me. Before his untimely death, he was shot to death in 1987. So, again, neither of my parents lived to see 50, and many family members are gone. I have very little family left, and, as cursed as my life was for so long, it's just very, very blessed now, and I'm grateful and thankful to God for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know you mentioned some of the physical side effects of this demonic haunt, but how was each family member with the emotional, mental, and psychological issues that can be associated with these kind of attacks?
Well, we were defeated in mind, body, and spirit. After my dad had left, we were easy pickings. They got the strong one out of there. And so we were at the mercy of these things, and we were absolutely defeated in mind, body, and spirit. My step-grandfather was Catholic. My family and I are not Catholic, but he was Catholic, and he went to his priest and went to the church. They sent out a priest. And there was a priest involved for the last 16 months that we lived there. And, unfortunately, the activity grew more violent and more intense, and it got to the point where we had a number that we could call him 24/7. And he would come, and he did frequent the house often, and would bring like mason jars full of holy water to the house.
Now, in Delivered, I want to talk for just a moment about Delivered. Delivered picks up where Dark Force left off. Can you please tell about some of the events that occur in Delivered?
Sure. Delivered, again, you're exactly right. Picked up where Dark Force left off. We finally left the house in December of 1980, and it wasn't long after that 2 tragedies occurred. And my beloved grandmother, Dora Harvey, suddenly died from a series of heart attacks, and then 2 days later, my beloved mother, Patricia Bean, died from a cerebral hemorrhage at the age of 44. These were the 2 closest people to me in my life. And after they were gone, I just absolutely didn't want to live anymore. I lied about my age, stopped going to school, and I lied about my age and went to work. And so I had to grow up very, very fast. And in doing that, without guidance, and I'm not blaming anybody for anything, but without having the proper structure and guidance and normalcy that families have, I made many, many mistakes, and I'm not proud to tell you that, but I did list some of those things in the book in hopes of reaching out and helping someone, and that's exactly what has taken place. So many people have contacted me, thanking me for having the courage to list some of these things and talk about some of these mistakes, and it really helped them and has and continues to help people in their life, and bringing them closer with God and helping them to make the right choices. So that's what this whole thing is about anyway. As sad and as tragic and as terrifying as everything was, and I lived like that for most of my life, I look back on it now, and I believe that God allowed some of that to happen for a reason. And that reason is what is taking place right now. I could not be where I'm at right now had I not been there. So God has taken a horrific thing, and He has transformed that into a super blessed and positive thing in the way that He's working through me and helping other people. So, do I wish I could change some things? Absolutely. I wish I could go back and change some things, especially when it came to the suffering of my mother, who suffered more than any other person I've ever seen. Certainly I wish I could change that, but I can't. So all I can do is continue to move forward and be the best that I can be each and every day. And I pray that God works through me to be a blessing to somebody every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I understand that and correct me if I'm wrong, that within the book Deliver, you described how you've battled demonic entities all the way into your adult life. Do you believe these are the same entities that tormented you in that home and has just kind of followed you and your family?
No question about it, absolutely. And again, this goes back because of those photographs that I found, with me at a young age. So without truly knowing the answer, I believe that God had a plan for me from my birth, and I really believe that Satan and his minions were. And I have been in many life-threatening situations, to where I should have been killed, and made mistakes to where I could have been in prison. And yet, through it all, God was there, protecting me from those things, and certainly sparing me from death for this very reason. For where I'm at right now, in being a powerful warrior for Him and helping people to become delivered from evil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why do you believe Satan was hell-bent on destroying you?
Because of the plan that God had for my life. Because of where I'm at right now. So much has happened in a negative way. And it really wasn't until 2008 that things transformed, and that was after I got baptized, and after making a conscious effort to make God first in my life. And that's exactly what happened. Now, I'm not talking about televangelism. I'm not thumping a Bible and preaching a sermon to anybody. I'm speaking the truth. And that is when my life drastically and dramatically changed, when I said to God, "You're number one. I let you guide my life, and I will just let you be the pilot." And that's what I did. And not only did He bless, cleanse, heal, and sanctify me from all of those horrific things and from the evil that was still bent on trying to destroy me, He put an anointing on me and a calling to help other people in the way that I'm helping them now, and the way He's working through me to help them. I don't claim any credit or glory for anything. I give Him all the praise and the credit and the glory, and that's exactly what's been taking place. I have probably over the last 3 or 4 years, God has worked through me to help probably thousands of people.
Before we move on to another heavier note, Robin Marie is in the chat room, and she says hi to her buddy.
She's my dear friend, and hi back to Robin, great lady, and she certainly knows this story inside and out.
Yeah, she's collaborating most of what you're saying. So, do you believe sometimes it's suggested that demonic attacks can be connected to family bloodlines? Do you believe this was the case with your family, that it was honed in on your bloodline or something of that nature?
Yeah, I think and that is true. there can be curses. There's two sources for curses. One is from God himself. Yahweh himself can and will curse those who do things that are detestable to him. And Satan also, who mimics everything that God does and puts a vulgar twist on it. So those are the sources of the curses and oppressions and things of that nature. So yes, it is possible through the bloodlines, and it is also possible that that there are these types of generational things and things where doorways are open. Like I stated, this family member did whatever to conjure this evil, so that a curse was placed there for the wickedness of that act. So we have different factors and different reasonings for these things, but usually it is associated with a wicked act or something that certainly angers God enough to place this curse, or again for God to allow Satan to place these curses. So Satan is very much still subservient to God. Just read the book of Job and you'll see what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So again, God ultimately is in control of everything, and there is a reason for everything. There's no such thing as a coincidence in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you believe that these entities focused more on you, or was it a different member of your family? Who do you feel got the most, got the brunt in of everything?
My mom and myself. We suffered more than anybody, and my mom suffered far greater than me because of the attacks that she had sustained from my dad. And then after my dad had left in 75, she came under regular physical attack from two entities in particular, and it became impossible for her to sleep in her bed anymore, and she had to come in and sleep in with my brother and I. So, and my sister, something I failed to mention, my sister was actually the first to leave, and she ran away in the middle of the night in 1973 and married a young man in the neighborhood, and she stated in the House of the Dead episode that she would have, married anyone just to get out of there. She couldn't take it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, speaking of your mom, Bill, how did she ever find any kind of peace or solace from this, being terrorized before she passed?
No, she did not, and it's very sad and tragic. When we left that house in December of '80, we moved to Richard's house, her boyfriend, and my brother and I didn't have any experiences there, so I thought we were free from it. But I visited with Richard about 4 or 5 years ago, and he made me aware that my mom was still having those experiences, and she made him promise not to tell us, but she was having those experiences up until the time of her untimely death.
Mm. Yeah, and that's just, I don't know, that's just so horrible to think that she was just tormented like that for so long, Well,
I tell you, I just remember certain things, and one thing that I can remember off the top of my head, many times, my mother looking up, to the ceiling and saying to God, why are you allowing this to happen to us? Just awful memories.
Mm-hmm. And you referenced Job, and Job would call out, "Why, God, why?" And God told him, "Who are you to question me?"
Yeah. Exactly.
So there is a lot of references, and there's a lot of parallels to Job, I guess, as well with your mother, even though she suffered for so long.
Yeah, absolutely correct. And I've often said to people, coming through all of this, I now have the faith of Job and the strength of Samson and the warrior spirit and mentality of David. And again, it's all from enduring all these things and from God taking such a horrific thing, and now just as he did with Job, blessed him tremendously, and that is exactly what he's done for me in my life. I'm very, very happy, very blessed, and very thankful to God for what he has done, for what he's doing, and for what he's going to do.
Yeah, and you can be thankful now because you've been through such horror, too. And you saw, your mom suffer the way she did and was tormented the way she did, so it would make you more grateful and appreciative naturally.
Oh, absolutely. And, I get such joy now out of God working through me to help other people, to free them from evil, to free them from situations that, that I, and not only me, but, my mom and my family were in for so long. And it's just a great, great feeling to walk into a place and see the look of just almost death, in the eyes of a person where they're at the end of the road, they've got nothing left. And then the transformation takes place and God begins to work and move, and then you see life come back to the eyes of these people, and then happiness and peace and joy return to them, and faith and optimism for a brand new life. And that's exactly what is taking place in many of these cases. And it is just, I can't describe it to you, how joyous this is, to see God help these people in this way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with that 100%. And anytime anyone, has that realization and can, change themselves and use their faith to do that, I think is an amazing thing.
Yes, we all have power, and it's God's power that is within us. When Yahweh created us, He created us with a little piece of Himself inside of each and every one of us. And when we activate that power, we call it the Holy Spirit, whatever we want to say, when we activate that mighty and holy power, look out, we become armed and dangerous against Satan and his minions. Don't think that Satan doesn't know it. And once we become empowered in that way, we will never look back. It's just a process. God can work through me to cast demons out of people all day long. But if they're not willing to change their mindset, well, guess what's going to happen? They're going to be okay for a little while, and then all that garbage is going to come back, and they're going to be worse off than they were before. So it is very important to have a philosophical mindset change and expect good things, expect to win. And that's how my life is now. For so many years, I would get out of bed and say, oh boy, what horrible thing is going to happen today. Well, guess what? That thing did happen because I just declared by the power of the spoken word that things are going to be bad today, and things will be bad. So now, each and every day, I'm up till 4 a.m. every morning. It's been this way for several years now. I answer emails and messages from people from all over the world, and so I'm up very, very late. And each and every morning, before, I don't care how tired I am, before I go to bed, I say a spiritual warfare prayer and a daily affirmation prayer. And in that daily affirmation prayer, I declare victory for the day. Each and every day, I expect to win. I expect good things to happen. And as a result of that mentality, again, my life is not perfect, but it is very, very blessed. And even if something doesn't go the way that I hope that it would, I praise God anyway, and I know He's got a better plan. And sure enough, something else will come along that is better than what I was expecting.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I do want to kind of move on just to some general questions. I understand, since Discovery Channel made that episode about your book and your experiences, for some of the viewers that have watched it, some might not have, but do you believe that this episode accurately depicted the torment and the demonic attacks?
Well, I'll say this. I'm very grateful to Discovery and New Dominion Pictures for, producing it, to Discovery for airing it. However, it was not entirely accurate, and that, unfortunately, is the way TV goes, and movies as well. So I was so grateful and thankful that I had the opportunity to be able to write Dark Force and get it out there. And it really, telling the story, it held me back so long because of my lack of education. I was always very embarrassed and ashamed that I quit school in the 8th grade due to those tragic circumstances. So I always felt intellectually inadequate. I felt that I could never articulate the stories properly. And so that held me back for many years from telling the story, but God put such a strong calling on me to write that book and get it out there. That's exactly what I did. I had a friend of mine that wrote an original draft of it, and it just was not right because, and he did a great job, but it was not right because it was not in my words. It needed to be in my words. It needed to be told by me, and that's exactly what happened. And when I first sat down to try and write it, it was a disaster. I could not get anything to flow right, and I was ready to just throw it all in the trash and be done with it. And I prayed about it. And I said to God, I said, Father, if you really want me to do this, if you're really calling me to do this, I need your help. And after that, wasn't long after, it was like a switch had turned on, and I sat down and I began to be able to, arrange this properly and articulate the story and present it properly. And it just really flowed after that. And I give my wife a lot of credit because she helped with the diction and the spelling, the punctuation, things of that nature. Mm-hmm. And, so it was huge that God had turned the switch on for me and helped me to be able to really present this thing in the proper way. And so, again, I'm eternally grateful for being able to have my voice presenting the actual authentic events that took place to the best of my recollections and other family members' recollections. So that is in Dark Forest.
Yeah. Now, if some believe that some type of strong religious relationship will protect you from demonic attacks, and I want to ask this specifically because of your ministry experience paired with the demonic attacks. Do you believe it's true that strong religious relationship can protect you from demonic attacks?
Well, our strong relationship with God is what prevents us from that. And yes, many times while having these attacks, if we're yelling out and a lot of people don't realize that we are also to call on God, and His mighty and holy name is Yahweh. So His name was listed 6,823 times in the Bible, mostly in the Old Testament, and they replaced that with the title of Lord, L-O-R-D. So whenever you see L-O-R-D in caps, that should say Yahweh. Those who call on the name of the Lord shall be saved. Those who call on the mighty and holy name of Yahweh shall be saved. Those people also don't realize that Jesus, his Hebrew name is Yahshua, which means Yahweh saves. The name Jesus is only 400 years old. The letter J was the last letter added to the English alphabet. It doesn't exist in Hebrew to this day, so most people don't realize this. But nonetheless, what I do in these situations of deliverance, I will say, Yahweh rebuke thee in Jesus' name. So even though people are saying Jesus, it is the same name as Yahshua. And in the original 1611 King James Bible, it is written there as Jesus with an I. There is no Jesus, it's Jesus. So that name has evolved. However, God knows our hearts, He knows our intentions, and when we call on the name of His mighty and holy Son, there is great power in it, whether we're using the name of Jesus, Jesus, or whatever else, Yahshua, it doesn't matter, because God knows our hearts and our intentions, and there is great power in the name of Yahweh, Yahshua, and Jesus.
I might have to have you and Robin Marie back on together to talk about your Bible discussions and the differences, in the Bibles and how the Bibles have evolved. I'd love to hear you and Robin go back and forth about it, because she's talking about it now in the chat room. So
yeah, she's very well aware. We've had many discussions, and she's very well aware of my studies. And I spent many years in deep studies of the 66 books of the King James, the other 534 that were left out, ancient history, ancient religions, and just the historical aspects of how this all came to be. And I'll tell you this right now, my ministry, Bill Bean Ministries for God, is non-denominational, which means we love all people, we accept everybody, and I don't have a doctrine that prohibits anybody from coming in or shuts people out of heaven. Since 30 AD, there are 34,000 different Christian denominations. There are 1,200 in the United States alone. 1,200 versions of one truth. How can this be?
Yeah.
We really need to ask ourselves this. And most of these denominations are not in agreement with each other. So what does that tell you? There's a real problem here.
That we don't know who's right. That's what I think.
This is why it is so important to have your personal connection and relationship with God, because man cannot lead you where God can. No man leads me, only God leads me.
Yeah, and that was where I was going to take the next question for you, because with me personally, I'm the same kind of, I guess, broader viewpoint that you are on that. My family comes from, a Jewish background and a Christianity background as well. I'm a very combined, I'm a hodgepodge of religious backgrounds in my life. And it's hard for me to look at one and go, you're right over the other. And to me, I constantly think, does my personal religious relationship, will that, protect me from, demonic attacks, or do I specifically have to be under the umbrella of Christianity? Do you know what I'm saying?
Again, it all comes down to our connection with God, our personal connection with God, because man cannot help you or do for you what God can. Only God can. A man cannot save another man in that way. It is impossible. So, therefore, it is essential that we have our personal connection with God only. And, I'm not very popular with some denominations and churches, and God bless them. I wish them well. I have no axe to grind against anybody. I'm a truth seeker. I want to know the truth so I can speak the truth, so I can teach the truth. And I live by two things. God is first in my life. I love Him with everything that I have. And I love my friend, neighbor, and brother as I would myself, and that's the end of the matter for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you have any personal belief about, spirits, or do you believe all spirits are of a demonic origin?
Well, that's really it's an interesting area. Again, for me, everything has pretty much been white and black. I've had many divine experiences as well, and so it all, for me, it's just been divine or demonic. However, if the scriptures are correct, in the 4 Gospels, which there are really 150 Gospels, I believe it's Luke, and I can't remember exactly where Jesus is walking on the water, and he's telling Peter, it is me, it's not a ghost. I'm not a ghost. It's me. So why would he mention ghost if there was no such thing, and it's so I found that to be very interesting there. Mm-hmm. And so I've had many thoughts about this, and maybe it's beyond my understanding, I'll tell you that much. Maybe there is a way for a so-called ghost or whatever to have an imprint in time or something. It's almost like a DVD player that loops over and over and over.
Are you there, Bill? Oh no, hang on. Wait a second. Well, I try to get Bill Bean back. I think his cell phone lost service, and then I'll get him back. He can finish answering that question, and we'll wrap up, and I'll be right back.
Okay.
And we're back with Bill Bean. I don't know whose cell phone that was, if it was mine or his, but it was one of ours.
Well, the important thing is we're like Marines. We adapted and we overcame. So.
Exactly. That honestly, there should be a military Marine Corps for internet broadcast, and that's all I got to say. Because I have learned to do nothing but adapt and to come back with strength and more vigorously than I was previously. So,
exactly.
So, you just live, you learn, you keep on going. So what plans, I do want to touch on this because we only got about 5 minutes left. What plans do you have within the future? Anything big coming up for Bill Bean?
Every day is a big day. I stay so busy. I just got back from the Mid-South Paranormal Convention, which I was there for 3 days, and wonderful experience, and I thank my dear friend Keith Gage for bringing me down there, and it was very, very nice. I appeared, I gave a lecture, and I also played with the band there, the Orktones. I played lead guitar, and it was just wonderful. We ended up playing live on Louisville Channel 11 morning news, in their morning show, and it was just a very, very good experience, and I'm looking forward to it again next year, and I'm set to make appearances like I have been all over the country. It's just, I never in a million years did I ever think, coming from the circumstances back then, that God would have me in the position to be traveling the country. And I've met so many great people. And again, it's just each and every day is a blessing. And I'm geared up now for the ParaFest, which is coming up, I believe, on September 6th in Bethlehem, PA. And that's a huge event as well. So I'm very much looking forward to that and the million other things that I have going on. Each and every day is jam-packed for me. My phone never stops ringing. The emails never stop. And it is a real task in trying to answer all the messages from people. And I thank everybody for their patience because I try to get back to everybody as quickly as I can.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Robin Marie is saying the movie. So you got something you're holding out on me here, Bill Bean?
I did sign an option and for a major motion picture that's going to be made about the story. And it's kind of been in a holding pattern, but things may be picking up again here soon, and Robin's certainly going to be a part of it because she's going to play a part in there. And she'll be playing the part of the medium. So imagine that, huh?
Yeah, the medium, playing the medium. I like that a lot.
Exactly. So she'll do very well. It'll be very natural for her, and I'm very much looking forward to that. And maybe the next time you bring me on, we'll take some time and really touch on everything, on the progress and what's taking place. And I'm very excited about it. I'll be glad when it finally gets here to where we actually start the real production on it.
Yeah, and that'd be really cool. I want to have you and Robin on because I want to, like I said, I want to hear y'all talk about the movie, but I also want to hear your Bible banter too.
That would be great. Yeah, very awesome.
Your Bible banter. I'm going to name it that, Bible banter.
Love it.
But I want to thank you so much, Bill, for being on tonight. I didn't get through all my questions, but I'll touch on them next time because I'm definitely going to have you and Robin on. And I will definitely touch on them. Then I could just pick your brain, I'm sure, for forever, and I hope you wouldn't mind.
Shannon, I really appreciate it, and God bless you and all the listeners out there. I look forward to coming back again.
Absolutely, and thank you so much again. I do want to give you one more quick shout out. Once again, his website has been on your screen all night long, but I do want to go back and recap and let you know that if you want to get in touch with Bill Bean or just learn more about him or check out the books, the website's on your screen right now. It's www.billbean.net or billbeanoffice@mail.com. And Bill does get back with you, and he's a super nice, super awesome guy, and you can't beat it. With that being said, I do want to mention that next week I'm going to have on Christina George and possibly David Weatherly with her to be talking about the black-eyed kid phenomenon and her encounter with it and knowledge of it. So be sure to tune in right back here next week, same time, same place, and once again, big, huge thanks to Bill Bean for being on. Bill, thank you so, so much.
My pleasure. Look forward to it soon.
Absolutely. And everybody have a great and wonderful night. And Robin, I just totally threw you out and planned a show with you, so you have to be cool with it. I know you are. I've been kind of monitoring your responses as well. But everybody have a great time and a great week. And everybody be blessed. And I will see you back here next week. Same time, same place. Everybody have a great week. Bye.